Hello everyone, my name is John from Vulgar Kitten Studios, and today I'm going to be doing a continuation of our Cygwin localhost Apache MySQL PHP server that we installed on Windows. Now I actually did create a previous version of this video, but I actually found a bug within the setup, so that's why I'm redoing it, just to let you know. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up VirtualHost so that way we can have multiple containers to work in rather than just the localhost directory or the localhost htdocs directory. So what I'm talking about is if we go to localhost, then we can see that this it works page comes up, and this is actually how we access phpMyAdmin as well. And I want to maintain this, but I want to be able to work with other directories and set up other little custom domains like localhost to work in, so that way I can keep everything a bit more organized. Okay, so let's just go ahead and open up a terminal and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if we cd into srv www and then ls tac lah, we can see the folders that we have, and we have a CGI bin folder, but we have this htdocs folder, and this is currently where our index.html page is that we see when we just go to localhost. So if we open that up, we'll nano htdocs index.html, and if that's what it's called, let's cd into htdocs ls cd htdocs ls, and that is index.html. So let me nano on index.html, and we see this HTML markup, and this is where that it works page is coming from, just so you know where that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mkdir, make a new directory in srv www, and just call this MVC. And within this MVC folder, I'm going to go into srv www MVC and create a new index.php page, just to test things out. So I'm going to open up PHP and then just echo hi to make sure that the point gets across, and we load separate folders. And so that's in there. And now what we need to do is we need to actually modify our Apache settings to allow these virtual containers to exist. So I'm just going to actually do this in a text editor. I have Sublime Text here, and I'll just go through and open them up and edit them directly from here, just because it tends to be a little bit easier than using Nano from within the command line. So I'm going to go ahead and just open a file. And by the way, you can do this in Notepad if you want to. So I'm going to come into my hard drive, and I'm going to find my Etsy folder. In here we have Apache 2. We'll come in here, and first of all we'll look at the httpd.conf folder or file, which is the Apache server configuration file. And in order to work with virtual hosts, we'll have to come all the way down to the very bottom of the file, and down here we can actually see some commented out included paths for things that are optional, and one of them is virtual hosts. So we'll have to just remove this hashtag to uncomment this include path here. And we can see that's in Etsy Apache 2 extra httpd-vhost.conf. So I'm just going to go ahead and save that. And now we'll open that file. So I'm going to open file, and we'll go into extra and then find the httpd-vhost file. And in here is where we can actually set up our virtual host containers. And the workaround that I'm talking about, this version of Apache, for some reason, if you set up a vhost for anything else, then you will actually overwrite or override your default directory. So the workaround that I applied is just to set up a virtual host for the original localhost server. So we'll open up a less than sign and put in our virtual host tag, set that to all IPs on port 80, and we'll need to close that. Make sure you spell everything right, because if you don't, then Apache will throw an error. So we'll first of all we'll give it a server admin, and this is not strictly required. This is a optional flag, but I'm just going to set in my email address just because I'm meticulous that way. And we'll have to give it a server name, which is going to be localhost. And now we'll need to give it, we can either get a server alias and then say like www localhost, which that's fine, you can use that as well. But now we'll actually set the document root just to what it already is. So document root, and that is going to be as srv srv www and then htdocs. So that is the original the original document root for localhost, and that's what we'll go ahead and just reset that to. And now we'll also need to specify an error log, and this is also optional, but I do recommend that you specify an error log, and we're going to put that in var log and Apache 2, and then just name the log localhost, and I'm going to name that localhost dash error underscore log. And then we can also set an access log, so that would be custom log, which is going to be in the same place, var log Apache 2 localhost dash access underscore log. I believe that's combined, or it's common, so common. Okay, and now that we have that, we can actually set up another container, or as many other containers as we really need to within this file as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this virtual host container and just change it to the things that I want. So I'm going to want to call this MVC, and this MVC, obviously I'll want to change the error logs as well, and the document root. Okay, and this will actually work, but if you just restart Apache and you do it like this, you don't have any directory rules for this particular directory, so you're going to get forbidden errors. You're going to get a can't access server because you don't have sufficient permissions. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to actually set up directory rules, just like we have in our httpd.conf file. So I'm going to scroll up until we find the directory rules for our htdocs folder. So right here. And I'm just going to copy these rules, and we can actually put these rules in this file as well, but we can do that within our virtual host containers, and I just find that it keeps it a little bit more organized if you do that. So I'm going to put them in here, and let me just tab this over. Also, let me take off word wrap. Also, all of these comments, I already have all these comments, I know what it all does, so I'm just going to remove all of this stuff, everything with a hashtag. I'm just going to remove that, and we'll remove this. Like so. And then we'll just change the directory that we're setting the rules for to MVC. So we'll save that off, make sure that we save out our httpd.conf file, and I'm going to Control-Alt-T and net stop httpd2 and httpd2 and net start httpd2. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and check it out. I'm going to open up a new tab and close this one out just to make sure everything works, and then I'll go to localhost, and we still get that Apache page, so let's go to phpMyAdmin, make sure that still works, and so it does. And now we can actually go to our MVC directory. However, there is one more step that I forgot to do. We'll need to set up a hosts directive in our Windows machine to make sure that we point that as well. So how we can do that is we can open the file, and we'll go into computer or into our hard drive, go to Windows, find our system32 file. So system32, and we'll want to go into drivers with a lowercase d, etc, and find the host file. And in here we can see that we actually have all of these pseudo domains pointing back to our local address here. So what we can do is we can just set up new rules for our own specific domains that we want to use. So I'm going to use MVC and just save that out, come back into the web browser and go to http:/MVC, just so we don't get a Google search. And now we can see that we get hi, but we've also maintained our local host directory as well. So even though you got to do a little bit more working around, virtual host containers are still possible in a native Cygwin Apache MySQL PHP stack. Alright, so I hope that this was helpful and shed some light on this kind of subject, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.